Hello, everyone. This is High Priestess Tana, and thank you for tuning into Tana Temple Healing Works. I am back with another analysis, and actually, I started to do this specific one first about Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee, father and son celebrities. And I thought this was very interesting because the energy around this is very heavy. And as we know, this happened some years back, several years back, when Bruce Lee died on July 20th, 1973. And we know for a fact that he died from a health issue. He basically complained of a headache and he took this, I guess you pronounce it an Equagesic, a painkiller containing aspirin and was it Meprob oh, how do you pronounce this? Meprobomat, Meprobomat or Meprobomat, and later became unconscious. And during an autopsy, they discovered cerebral edema or swelling of the brain. But in some cases, his death was classified as death by misadventure in some cases, but there are a lot of different theories and different, I would say, opinions and conspiracies around both the deaths of Bruce Lee and his son Brandon Lee, right? So it's so crazy because Bruce Lee died a little bit before his 33rd birthday. So he was born on November 27th, 1940, in San Francisco, California. And he passed away on July 20th, 1973, at the age of 32 in Hong Kong. And from my understanding, he was originally from, his folks were from Hong Kong, China. So yeah, it's a lot going on with this whole situation. Um, yeah, so he was born in San Francisco and raised in Hong Kong, and that's how he got introduced to the film industry, and he became a child actor by his father, Lee Hoi Chun. You have to excuse my Chinese. I don't speak Chinese fluently. Yeah, I do remember him training under Ip Man, and those actually they made some movies on based on Ip Man, who is a he was a well-known Chinese martial artist, grandmaster, and he actually became the teacher of the martial art of Wing Chun, and also Bruce Lee ended up learning Wing Chun from Ip Man. Okay, so yeah, overall, I just want to get into just the conspiracy theory parts about their deaths, both Brandon and Bruce Lee. I'm going to try to make this very straight to the point. I don't want to like just, how would I say it? I don't want to just fumble around while talking about this because I have a lot that I have to say. So there is a lot to be discussed. Also, okay, I want to segue to talk about Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee was born on February 1st, 1965, and he passed away on March 31st, 1993. At the age of 28, he was very young. If you notice by looking at the pictures, he looks so much like his father, Bruce Lee. Oh my goodness, like he looks so much like him. He's also well known for playing the role in The Crow. The role of I believe the character's name was Eric Draven. Yes, Eric Draven in the supernatural film The Crow, and he actually was the superhero slash protagonist of the movie The Crow, and it's one of his most well-known works because this was the movie that he literally like died on the set technically while he was um rehearsing for the role. You have to excuse me if I keep pausing because this is very heavy. This is a very heavy subject to talk about. Um, there have been so many conspiracies about both of these men in Hollywood, and there was some really strange stuff happening on the set of The Crow that I really want to talk about, and how it seemed like some people will argue and say that these two men were kind of like marked for death, like from the beginning. Um, like it was a family curse or something. And everyone says that like, oh man, it's seemed like a Lee family curse, like when it comes to the males in the bloodline and this, that, and the other, and it's a bunch of just a bunch of hearsay, you know. And I have a lot to just really run down about this whole situation. And as like father, like son, Brandon Lee was also trying to establish his career as both an actor and a martial artist. So he too was also into martial arts and acting. And it's crazy because he died from an accidental death on the film. I mean, while uh, doing the film called The Crow. And even though he did other things, like other movies, rather, other projects, The Crow became like his most well known work because of the tragedy that happened on the set. Like he basically was fatally wounded by a prop gun. So, from my understanding, that they were supposed to switch out there was supposed to be blank bullets in a gun, blank pellets or bullets or whatever. And there was some type of issue where they thought that I think they ran out of blanks or something, and they ended up having to use real bullets with gunpowder. And somebody dropped the ball, supposedly, and thought they took all of the I guess the gunpowder out of the bullets, and they didn't, and that resulted into him getting fatally wounded on set. And there were some other weird things going on that I just really want to talk about. Like, I want to just jump into this whole thing of about the Lee family curse. Okay, I just want to cut straight to the chase. So, um, as we know, Bruce Lee was a very powerful martial artist. He was a martial artist extraordinaire slash badass in the industry, you know. He had some very entertaining movies. One of my favorite movies is Enter the Dragon. Um, Also, there was another movie that, oh my goodness, I was just watching it too. I believe it was called Fist of Fury. And he had a lot of yes, Fist of Fury was really good. Game of Death, oh my god. And Enter the Dragon were my favorite ones. I would say some of my top favorite ones. Um, but I want to just really delve into like talking about the mysterious death of Bruce Lee first. So there have been so many different theories and assumptions, and just people just coming up with all these conspiracies about what really happened. So, what I, from my understanding, is that these things are highly debatable, and as a result, as I'm thinking about everything in its totality, um, there were some things, conspiracy theories that were floating around saying that Bruce Lee could have possibly been poisoned and that someone deliberately did that to him, I guess out of a form of revenge. It could have been because of something like a contractual or something dealing with money, or maybe, I don't know, maybe a scorned lover. I have no idea. Then some people uh claimed that the Triad, which is a Chinese criminal organization, supposedly was behind his death, and they could have ordered a hit or something. Alleged. This is all alleged. Not saying this is true. These are conspiracies. That killed him. Some people were saying that it could have been done out of jealousy, like someone in the entertainment industry could have been very jealous and intimidated, or wanted revenge, because maybe they wanted to be in his spot. I have no idea who that could have been, but I know the only emerging person out back then that was really starting to, like, really kind of put me in a mind somewhat like Bruce Lee was Jackie Chan. I'm not saying he had anything to do with it, but as far as, like, I noticed, like, it seemed like Jackie Chan ended up being in movies a little more right after Bruce Lee passed away. And then eventually we had like Jet Li and other people that came out the woodwork, and other people who already existed in the martial arts world. um I don't know all their names, but it seemed like a lot of people were just kind of like look viewed excuse me being viewed as a suspect or something. Then they say the martial arts curse. Some people claim that Bruce had angered some people who were practitioners or violated some type of secret tradition that he wasn't supposed to share publicly, like it was some type of sacred form of martial arts and it was very traditional and it should have not been shared with the public, so that could have been an issue. And then some people claim that Bruce Lee also allegedly used substances over the years, and it could have affected him as well. And also, again, we have that so-called family curse. And after his son Brandon's death, people started looking for answers and trying to come up with all these different theories about, oh, this must be something that happens in the Lee family, like whenever a male Lee family member becomes somewhat or can like completely famous or like well known, like on a, like the level of Bruce Lee, or on the verge of success, um like being highly successful, it seemed like their career ends like tragically and it becomes short-lived. Like if Bruce Lee was living right now, I'm quite sure he would have had so many martial arts movies out. And it's so crazy because people claim that, from what I said a little earlier, that his death was a result of cerebral edema, swelling of the brain, which was attributed to an allergic reaction to the painkiller. Was it Equagesic? And they he supposedly collapsed at an actress's apartment. That's what they said. And a lot of things were hearsay and getting mixed up, and there was a lot of confusion about what really happened. And yeah, they were saying, because like they said that he was at the apartment of, yeah, Taiwanese actress Betty Teen Pei. And then when he went to lie down and he fell asleep, he couldn't be revived. It's almost like he technically passed away in his sleep. There is a lot going on with this whole situation. And they said, according to this a 2022 medical study, it was suggested that his kidneys cannot excrete excess water fast enough, leading to what is this? Hyponatremia, hyponatremia, and fatal brain swelling. And then some people said that it could have been attributed to heat stroke and sweat glands. Yes, that is true. I read about Bruce Lee having his underarm sweat gland surgically removed, and that could have possibly reduced his ability to cool down and trigger a fatal heat stroke. I did see something about that. From my understanding, I was watching this it was this TV show called Autopsy, and they were talking about celebrities and going over their like records, I guess, like you would call like autopsy records and what happened to them and their cause of death and underlying health issues and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of claims out there. We'll never know the truth and we weren't there, so this is all due to speculation. But also, I would like to add that, well, now I would like to talk more about Brandon Lee again. So, Brandon Lee passed away in 1993 at the age of 28. He was in the middle of filming The Crow, and he was performing a scene in which he was supposed to have been getting shot by this other character. I forgot the character's name. I think the character's name was it not Fun Boy. I want to say something like that. One of those. He had a weird name or something like that. But I want to see. Don't quote me just yet. But let's see. Um, Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me see. Oh my God, where is it? I could just go straight to the crow. Yeah, I think that was the character's name who he was supposed to get shot by. This character named Fun Boy or something like that. Yes, that's him. Yup. So basically, he was the one who he's known for playing like different villains and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, I think that's the one. Yes. Yep. So his name is this man's name was Michael Massey. So in 1993, Massey portrayed the character Fun Boy in the film The Crow, starring Brandon Lee. Massey was the actor who fired the shot that accidentally killed Lee on the set, and as a result of an improperly prepared prop gun, traumatized by the event, he returned to New York and took a year. I'm sorry, took a year off from acting and never saw the film. So, in an interview in 2005, Massey said that he still had nightmares about it, stating, "I don't think you ever get over something like that." But check this out, he ended up playing a cop in Tales from the Hood. I'm going to talk about that too one day. Pretty soon. I want to do something, maybe next week or something. I'm trying to get some more content pumped out, but yeah, but I like to take my time, and that's interesting because he too uh he passed away in real life. What's his name? Michael Massey. He died of stomach cancer in Los Angeles on October 20th, 2016 at the age of 64. So wow. He said he was haunted by that for years. He never really got over it. I could imagine. He's been in a lot of things though. A lot of different shows and movies over the years. And let's see, let me go back. Um, so basically, The Crow is a very interesting movie. It was very good. It had a rock and roll appeal to it. And it was like giving me grunge, but also kind of like that what you call it, like death metal and stuff, where they be wearing all that different type of face paint and shit. That's what it kind of remind me of too, like the look that they were going for is like gothic slash death metal. And what's crazy is that the character that Brandon Lee was portraying in the film, also known as Eric Draven, was a rock musician, and he was resurrected from the dead to seek revenge against the gang who murdered him and his fiance. So I thought that was interesting. And when he resurrected, he actually was resurrected by this crow. And what does the crow mean? Like, obviously, it represents like in this case, well, I was going to say like resurrection for him, vengeance, but with the crow itself, like the actual, because I was looking at the symbolism like with the makeup and everything. So if you look at the face paint of the crow, you will see that it looks like clown makeup, like the Joker, right? If you take a really good look, the crow makeup looks so much like clown makeup, like the Joker, but black and white. So I thought that was interesting. And if you look at the wrestler Sting from back in the day, he was also inspired by the crow look for a minute. Yeah, that's a good example of I was trying to find. Oh man, okay, this is better. Okay, so you can see it better here. It's giving like Joker type of makeup, but yeah, like I just want to actually talk about, well, the crow actually is affiliated with death, from my understanding. So they could be very intelligent. They represent, well, they could represent intelligence, high intelligence, transformation, mystery, and a sharp awareness of change. But also, if you think about it, they could represent. This is the part I was really looking at. Transformation, since they're well, as scavengers appearing at turning points, they signify endings that lead to new beginnings, meaning he was resurrected from the dead, and he started a new life. He had like a rebirth. The unseen and mystery, sorry, their dark feathers and watchful habits link them to magic, shadow work, and unknown. Now that's what I was really trying to get into. Okay, so the spiritual meaning of a crow signifies transformation, heightened awareness, and receiving a message from the unseen or spiritual world. That's exactly what he was doing. Like, he actually found out where all these gang members were through that by channeling the supernatural and spiritual abilities of the crow, and he got revenge. And when I'm thinking about it, where is that dango thing? Okay, it was somewhere. Okay, one of these. Oh my god, is that, why is that not, okay? So let's see, it was something else though. It was another screen that I was looking for about the crow symbolism. I think it may have been this one. So with the crow symbolism, um, sorry, movie. I'm trying to do movie 1994, 1994 symbolism. You have uh yeah, talking about, yeah, vengeance and connection, and it's talking about the bird is like a tether to Eric Draven's resurrection, and it gives him sight and guide him towards the men who murdered him and his fiance Shelly. I was just basically talking about that. It can also represent we're talking about a man who's grieving, and it's crazy because he was already dead himself, but he came back, and he used the supernatural powers of the bird, the crow, in this case, and he was seeking justice, and he had endured like all these different emotions because he was like heartbroken, and he was still in love with his fiance. You know, she was gone too soon. He was gone too soon. They both were young. It's crazy because he died in the movie, and he also died on the set of the movie, like in real life. That was scary. And he didn't really technically finish the film, from my understanding. Also, we're talking about sorrow and purification. Yeah, you notice like whenever you see a bunch of rain and stuff, and there was a lot of rain, and the movie was based in Detroit. Well, not it was based on Detroit. Sorry, because it wasn't filmed in Detroit. It was actually filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, but it was supposed to be set. The theme of the movie or the background or however you want to put it, the story was based in Detroit. Okay, and they talked about Devil's Night slash Angel's Night. At the time, it was still called Devil's Night, but then they eventually end up changing it to Angel's Night. But also, yeah, that rain represented sorrow and purification and hope, which also existed too when it came to that rain, because it was also mentioned that it can't rain all the time. So yeah, like that also represents like the hope or purification of the city too, especially when you think about when Eric was taking out all these gangsters one by one. And yeah, like destruction and chaos. The fire that was set across Detroit on Devil's Night symbolized the total morale collapse and lawlessness of the city's criminal underworld. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how the book was based in Detroit. And the catharsis is saying while the villains use fire to destroy, Eric uses the elements to dismantle their empire. The elements meaning magic, the supernatural, having insight or intuition, also being connected to the crow and the spirit world and all this other stuff. And also it was something else that I was Oh yeah, tragedy and masking. I was just about to talk about the makeup. So he chose this white face paint, very stark white face paint with black eyes and lips, and it resembles a theater mask, somewhat like a clown, like I was saying, almost like somewhat like a Venetian mask or something. And it symbolizes transition from being human or from a living human to a avenging phantom of grief and art. Like he was a relentless spirit connected to the spiritual world, and he couldn't be killed by them basically, because he whenever he would die he would come back, I noticed. But it was very interesting. That was a very interesting movie. Now I want to tap into let's see, the incidents that happened on the set, and I think I'm about to wrap this up because again it was a lot going on, and this information, I mean, it's heavy to talk about. I just wanted to talk about how I feel about this and the things that the conspiracies uh that are floating around even until this day, and may continue to flow around or float around as I think about it. So people were saying from the freak accidents to severe weather and the fatal shooting of Brandon Lee, that made a lot of people feel like the set was cursed. And I remember reading about this crane accident where they said that a disgruntled carpenter drove a construction crane into live power lines, severely burning a worker. Then there was the screwdriver incident. A crew member accidentally got impaled through the hand by a heavy screwdriver. And then you have the plaster shop crash. A sculptor inexplicably drove a car straight through the studio's plaster shop, destroying models and props. And then you had fires and falls. So an equipment truck mysteriously caught fire on a back lot. A rigger suffered a severe electrical shock, and the stuntman took a bad fall. Oh yeah, it was a lot going on with this. And then the weather, they said a powerful storm smashed the outdoor sets on the back lot, forcing the crew to rebuild or move indoors under a compressed schedule. It's like a force was trying to stop this movie from being released. I don't know what the hell that force could have been, but and then there were complaints, or I mean not complaints, but there were like the actors sometimes film night scenes of freezing rain and bitter winter cold with minimal clothing. That's funny I said complaints, because they probably were complaining if they were filming in those type of conditions. And then the issue with the prop gun, okay, that the tragedy which resulted in the tragedy of Brandon Lee, who's also widely known as being the son of martial artist legend Bruce Lee, was fatally wounded during a scene in an apartment. So there was a real bullet fragment from a previous dummy round that had been lodged inside the barrel of that particular prop gun. And when the gun was later loaded with a blank round for a firing scene, the explosive force shot the hidden fragment out of the barrel. And as a result, the projectile struck Lee in the abdomen, causing fatal internal injuries. And he passed away after hours of surgery at just 28 years old. And that was a lot. It was a lot. Oh, y'all, this from 2 days ago. How, what in the world? I didn't even know. Oh my God, there go Tony Todd. He was in there too. He sure was. And I was thinking about, I was like, wait a minute, it's somebody else, Tony Todd. We already know where we know him from. And Ernie Hudson. Yeah. And then that's Michael Massey in the middle, who pulled the trigger, but he didn't know that was going to happen. He was just doing what he was performing his, doing his work as an actor. And it was very unfortunate that he had to carry that with him for so many years. Oh my God. Wow, this is crazy. And RIP to Tony Todd too, because both of these men are deceased. Tony Todd and Michael Massey. And Brandon Lee, unfortunately. Oh my goodness. That's three people who passed away from this movie alone. And yeah, this was Brandon Lee's final film. It was just, ooh, the perfect example of the makeup, how severe it was. Um it was almost like he was sacrificed on set, y'all. Like, I'm not saying that's what happened, but yeah, it was a lot that went totally wrong with this. But there are a lot of things that are debatable still floating around. And it just had me thinking a lot. It has me thinking a lot about what really could have happened. Is it really like a curse? Um, some people may argue that this may have been attributed to some type of supernatural um, situation, or some people may argue that and I've read that too about the curse originated with Bruce's ancestors, and people claim that Bruce angered someone in Hong Kong, or that it was connected to some type of Chinese superstition around surrounding the family's rise to fame and everything like that. It's just a lot. We don't know what's really true, but it do feel like these two men were somewhat sacrificed in a way, allegedly. Not saying like in a always like a super natural way, but I mean, it is what it is, at this point. This is all just alleged, but their deaths were strange. It's like, um, I mean, what I mean by everything isn't related to the supernatural. Like, I'm just saying that it could have just been meant to happen. It could have been just like set up, well, not set up, but like designed that way. Maybe somewhere in the stars. Maybe this was just how things were meant to end for them. That's how their life was pretty much sketched out from the beginning. It was written in the stars, and it could have been, and it was just something they couldn't avoid, you know. But overall, the top theories is that either their deaths could have been linked to a criminal organization. Um, People was also arguing that Bruce Lee was killed because of his martial arts career, and that his son Brandon Lee had inherited that threat or curse, supposedly. And then people were saying that Bruce Lee had offended some powerful people, maybe some higher ups, or however you put it, and that his family became marked. And some people, like I was saying, also believe that their deaths were part of some ancient curse. Who knows? But sometimes shit just happens. But what are the odds of shit just happening like that, so randomly, like so tragically, to a father and son? Like, that's weird to me, but I digress. Um that's crazy. Check this out. Now, I wanted to read this. It said Brandon Lee's stunt double in The Crow 1994 was later used as a stand in for Lee after his death, with CGI used to digitally superimpose Lee's face onto the stunt double's body. The stunt double was Chad uh ooh Stahelski. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Stahelski, who later became the director of the John Wick franchise. Wow. Wow. Um wow. It's a lot going on, y'all. Um we don't know if these men were deliberately or intentionally murdered, or had some type of threats against their life already, or like intentionally being sabotaged or anything like that. So we really don't know. But what I can say is that this was a pretty good movie. Regardless of, it's unfortunate what happened to Brandon Lee and other people on the set. My heart goes out to all of them, and the other people who are deceased too, like such as the other actors. Um, but I mean, it is crazy because there is so much going on with this whole thing, and people are saying that it could be like a Hollywood cover up, allegedly. We don't know. But from what I'm understanding, they said that the gun procedures were considered very unsafe, and it resulted in a chain of mistakes involving dummy ammunition, blanks, and inspection of the weapon. We know that for sure. Okay, that's factual when it came to Brandon Lee. I think people were working on low fumes and shouldn't have been damn doing anything, any type of filming with tired eyes and stuff like that, you know? This movie had a very dark energy to it, even though it was a really good movie. I like I guess you say the premise of it, the whole story was, it was pretty cool. And he was like, I could see Eric Draven as being like a Marvel superhero or something, you know? But, it's just, it's unfortunate. And I'm just going to say this when it comes to Bruce Lee. When you have a lot of fame and when you're widely known and you're getting a lot of attention, and he had a lot of success in a short period of time, be surprised if he did have threats against him and people were jealous and envious. I know they were. And the same thing could have been happening to Brandon Lee. They saw that same gift in him, and maybe they wanted to do something to him too, allegedly. You never know. But I want to touch base on one last thing about The Crow. How was Brandon Lee acting on the set of The Crow? Okay, so they said they said that he came through, Brandon Lee came through intense, passionate, and deeply committed, and he was very immensely physically and emotionally energetic while being into this role. And he worked a grueling night, shot in cold, rainy conditions. He wanted it to be a breakout success. He was very collaborative. He brought a mix of playfulness off camera and fierce intensity on camera. Yeah, he helped choreograph and refine action sequences. Yeah, because he too was a martial artist. So I can believe that. I definitely can believe that. And but there was something else too. I wanted to I'm picking up maybe let's see, how was Brandon Lee acting weird, acting strange rather, on the set of The Crow. That's not what I was referring to though. Uh, okay, yeah, they not really giving me no. Okay, but anyway, cause I saw something else where they were talking about it was some strange behavior on the set of Crow and stuff like. Um, I don't know, it could have just been maybe just being exhausted or tired or something. And, people kind of get like kind of eccentric. But anyway, y'all, this is the end of this video. I'm wrapping this up. I gotta get my beauty sleep. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments. Let me know how y'all feel about everything. But let's see. Oh, one more thing. I spoke too soon. I want to talk about the death parallels between Bruce Lee and his son Brandon Lee. So, in Bruce Lee's unfinished film, because he had an unfinished film too called Game of Death, his character is shot on a film set with a real gun that was secretly swapped with a live round during a fake movie set shooting. And then 20 years later, Brandon was fatally shot on the set of The Crow by a prop gun that accidentally contained a real bullet fragment. Wow. That's what they said. And this coming from the Los Angeles Times. Mm-mm. Yeah, but I'm done, y'all. This it is. I'm about to wrap this up. Y'all have a beautiful rest of y'all day because I know it's like after midnight. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. And I see y'all soon. All right, peace. Love y'all. Again, this is High Priestess Tana, and I'm about to get some sleep.